Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I hope all of you are well and staying safe. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Hassan and Ali, and I will be your host. On behalf of Salat team, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar, which is all about the evolution of e-commerce and retail ecosystem. We all agree that the pandemic has disrupted many industries and sectors. And retail in particular, it has got the most impact. The pandemic has brought about many challenges. The buying behavior has changed and consumers started to reduce their visits to the traditional retail stores. As a result, the e-commerce retailers have seen exponential growth through their online digital stores as consumers adopted and are more inclined to go through the online platform. Having said that, the World Economic Forum has estimated that the UAE economy is valued at 23 billion US dollars in 2020, and the number is expected to grow to a whopping 68 billion US dollars in 2023. Another study suggests that the world online grocery has increased by 500% during this pandemic, and the number is expected to grow even further. The digital transactions have increased and the payment methodologies have changed. Consumers started to adopt more of a countless or contactless online payment like e-wallet and credit cards, and started to move away from cash transactions and to reduce the cash moving from one person to another. Another important point is that being online has become an important role for many SMBs, because from brand building perspective, you're not only selling products, but you're also focusing on building your brand. Shifting to the online the business, many retailers have benefited hugely from this move, and also many industries like delivery industries. Whether we like it or not, this is becoming the new normal. It's like go online or perish. On the other hand, we see many businesses who adopted a hybrid model. They combine the online presence with the physical presence. So they allow the customers to buy online and maybe deliver it, or maybe go and collect it on the retail stores. So all of this into perspective, the thing that I'm trying to send across is that the e-commerce is back with huge opportunities for all businesses. And it is the right time to capitalize and leverage on these opportunities. The good news is that today we are accompanied by two experts who are going to show us the new business trends and are going to show us how to address the new market challenges and need. Of course, we have today Mr. Owen with us, who leads the consumer industry for IBM in the Middle East and Africa. Owen helps well-known brands to come up with their own solution and be effective and competitive, and of course agile in their respective industry. Of course, this will not be complete without addressing your questions throughout this webinar. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy today's webinar, which is all about the evolution of e-commerce and the retail ecosystem. And over to you.
Thanks, Hassan, for the kind introduction. Look, when I was putting together today's presentation, I was looking for a catchy title, and I came up with this. I think it's catchy, but I'll let you be the judge. Something old, something new, some things borrowed, but always in my color. So what am I getting at? Well, today we're going to take a look back at how retailing was conducted in the past. Then what I want to do is I want to fast forward to what it's looking like today, particularly in this new environment that we find ourselves in. So that's a bit of something old and something new, if you will. But along the way, I think we can take a look at how no single brand, or for that matter, no single industry has the monopoly on how to serve our customers, right? Because I think what might surprise you, or maybe it doesn't, is that we all seem to borrow best practice. And the reason is pretty simple, because today's consumer, well, I think that they got to the point where they're self-defining themselves by every top-class interaction that they have. So any best experience for them becomes their next best expectation. And it doesn't stop there, because today's consumer expectation is a particular one. Gone are the days when one size fitted all. What we all want now is something customized just for me. Everything needs to be tailor-made, or at least it needs to be in my color. So it's something that I like. It's always bigger, better, and a brighter color of my choosing. And technology, I think, is the enabler of all of this. And today, what myself and my fellow speakers will do, I hope, is to highlight this and to show the kind of opportunity that I think we all have to better shape and serve our customer experience. So let's get started. Next slide, please. Know me well. I like this picture, and I've used it a couple of times because I think there's a lot going on here that's interesting to us when we think about how we conduct our business of retail today. This is a general store sometime back in the 1920s, and it's somewhere in the US. I don't know exactly where. But what's really interesting here is it shows us that what we want today as we try to shape customer experience is what retailers actually had, more than 100 years ago, maybe forever. They actually knew their customers well, maybe better than we do today. And they knew this because they knew not only every person in front of them, and they knew them well, they knew them because they knew their family members, they knew their community, they knew the significant life events that they were going through, like birthdays and weddings. And they did it effortlessly because they're in constant communication with their customers. And I think that is the key, constant communication. And this served them well, and the consumer very well, because what it meant for them is they could shape the interactions. And it seems like not a lot has actually really changed when we take a step back and look at what's going on today. Next slide. Any statistics that you choose to gather on this topic, I think, say a very similar thing. We want our retailers to know us well if you can serve us better. Today, particularly in the digital sense, data is collected on us by the SLIKE and the WIPE. Everything we do, it collects information on us. And we're okay with that if we can do a few things with that. If you can expedite my experience, deliver more relevant offers, give me a more personalized experience, then our consumers are okay with that. We all seem to be okay with that. In fact, more than 60% almost are okay with this. But there's always a but, and I think this is where it gets interesting. Next slide, please. Get this wrong, and we're very frustrated. And if you look at the statistics here, I think that bears this out. More than 56% of us are frustrated by inconsistent and inaccurate recommendations. So if you don't get it right, then you're raising my frustration levels, and that's a problem. And then conversely, if we have a look at, if you make restrictions on us based on your assumptions, then I'm equally unhappy. And if you look at this statistic, more than 59% of us want the freedom to browse whole ranges rather than edited selections. So the message being, don't assume you actually have to work with some solid information about what we want. So when we net this out, right now, there is a definite desire out there in the market for customer intimacy. And our challenge is how to serve that just right. Because get it right, and I'm delighted, get it wrong, and you might end up losing me. And I think our challenge is here to drive the right level of engagement, but it's not a one-dimensional problem. It seems that there's actually more of this that we need to go handle. Next slide, please. I like this image because it captures, I think, a different dimension of our engagement dilemma. What we're seeing now more and more in the market is that our consumers are in fact on a new ride. Hassan was talking about how in a brave new post-COVID world, how we're now struck with the dilemma of people spending more and more time online in digital, but then the question mark is, what happens to the physical store? How do we actually drive experience? And when I talk to clients around the region, this topic of experience is often very much top of mind. And you see, our customers don't want to be just served intelligently, which is based on how we actually know them and know them well, but they want to be entertained. And this calls for some pretty creative thinking. When we take a look at retailing, there are many ways in which retailers, in fact, are like upping their game. And what I've got now is a couple of examples that I think show exactly how this is possible. And if we were to break it down, there's maybe a couple of different ways we can look at it right now. I've picked three. One about how we're increasing levels of engagement with do-it-yourself concepts. Second is how we're doing this better with product customization. And then thirdly, how we're doing this better with extended services. And I think all of these domains represent great experiences for us to include as we try to do better in entertaining and engaging our customers, both physically and digitally. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at DIY. Here, I think what you're seeing here is how do you get to the next level of engagement as you help consumers build their own product? And I think the emphasis here is on building their own products, because what we can do now is quite easily facilitate either online or on a mobile app, letting the customers help themselves. And if you look at these three examples, some of the brands you might recognize in our market like Nike, but take a look at the Dresden example, because I think this is a nice, simple one to consider here. What's happening here is that with Dresden, they're letting the consumer take the piece parts of the eyeglasses and all the specifics and build it themselves. And this takes care of matching the different components to the customer exactly. So there's no miscommunication, no mistakes, and more engagement and more ownership and advocacy of the product. But there's more examples here I think we can take a look at. So let's keep moving. Next slide. Now we're moving into product customization. It's a bit like DIY, but I think it's subtly different. So instead here, what we're talking, that the build activity still occurs, but what we're really focusing now here is on the creative aspect, and we're giving customers the next level of choice. And the emphasis is creating about a one-off product for the consumer. And this helps the customer, I think, feel empowered, be more creative, and get something that's unique and something that's moving them along the lines towards brand advocacy. So if you take a look here at both the Converse and the Levi's example, two brands that are in our market here, there is an in-store component. And we can see how there's not really a big stretch to see how we can extend this to a digital component. So when Hassan was talking earlier about, what is happening here between digital and physical, I think this is a good example of how if we tackle engagement through, say, this lens of product customization, we can start to blend the two and make it more interesting and engaging for our customers. But I think there's another dimension here to look at. So let's look at extending services. Next slide. So extended services here is that if you look at all the different brands, and I think we know them here, basically what they all have in common is that they've taken a collective step back and asked themselves the question, what's the context in which my consumers consume? And armed with that answer, what they've done is taken the next logical step to say, how do I extend my offerings to serve this broader need? I think the most fun example in this is the one from American Eagle. Now, you may or may not know this, but the demographic of American Eagle is university students. And what they do know is that the longer they can keep the university student in proximity to their product, then the bigger propensity there is to buy. So what did they do? They started out by putting retail stores in close proximity to universities and student accommodation. But then they took it a bit further and they thought to themselves, what is the new range of services that I can put in front of my consumer, again, to engage them and to build them towards advocacy? And I think the most fun thing they did here is to co-locate a free laundromat service within their stores. So the students can actually do their laundry while they're waiting and browse the shop while they're waiting for their laundry to complete. So I think it's pretty smart thinking, and it's a nice example of how what we can do is extend our services beyond the product and look at what is the larger value proposition, I think, to the consumer. Next slide, please. So where do we land with all of this? Well, the bottom line, I think, is that as much as we'd like it, our customers are not all alike. We all want something a little bit different, but we all want our intentions to be known. And I think more recently, we've changed a bit, and maybe we're going to go back and maybe we're not going to go back. Next slide, please. Because when you look at our post-COVID experience here, I think this line says it right. The consumer will come back, except when they don't. And what we really mean here is that I think that the consumer will come back to the modes in which they buy from us, whether it be online or in physical stores. But I think some of the behaviours that have now been adopted because of the COVID situation are here to stay. And I think that's what makes it interesting, because now what we need to do is to tackle all of these new challenges and these new opportunities and see how we can take this to the new level. Next slide, please. And I think this is the new level, because what I'm seeing when I talk to different retailers around the region is that the consumer wants to shop every possible way they can. And this graphic here of the overpasses, and I think it's somewhere down near Dubai Mall, if I'm right, kind of says it all, because the point is that everybody has many, many choices available to them, depending on where they want to go, what they want to do along the way, and they might even end up going in the wrong direction if we don't guide them right. So whether it's discovery, engagement, fulfillment, payment, returns, and the list is endless in the ways in which the customer journey can twist and turn. There are many, many choices. And I think this is where we need to settle today, which is how do we look at these choices available to our consumers? How do we revisit the customer journey in the context of what's been going on since COVID? And how do we revisit this in terms of what technologies and digital opportunities are available to us as we build our businesses and look for new ways to engage the customers? So Hassan, back to you, and I'll take any questions. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Owen, for sharing great insight and valuable information with us. I actually agree with you when you said that gone the days that one size fits all, and every customer would like to have a unique proposition designed for him. And it's actually mind-blowing to see that 59% of the customer would like to browse the whole range. I mean, this was something revealing. So it's good. So a few questions from LinkedIn, Owen, that I'm taking. Tawsif Ahmed Khan have a question. He says that too often generalized. Can you share your experience how the world is responding to hyper-personalized experience with the brand?
So how the world is, say that one more time, please, Hassan. How the
world is responding to hyper-personalized experience with the brand.
I think I think that is the dilemma, and I think right now this is something that we're all struggling with, and people are doing it to varying degrees. Because at the end of the day, as we were talking earlier, there is so much data out there on us and available to try and drive some sort of insight. But I think too often what's happening is that we're not driving real insight. We're making some pretty big assumptions about customer behavior, and we're not treating customers as individuals. So I think the way, the smarter organizations, what they're doing is they're figuring out how can they really get to the bottom of knowing their customers. And I think that the smartest ones are doing this by having more of a conversation with their customers. So not just making assumptions, but opening some form of dialogue, some form of channel where it becomes more of a two-way communication street. Because I think that's where the key to success lies, because we all do want to be served better because it's in our self-interest. So I think that we're more and more open now to collaborating with the brands to kind of get that done. So I think that's how the smarter organizations are responding, is not being passive, but more interactive with their consumer when they start to make smarter choices about personalizing their service.
All right, great. Thanks for addressing that. Owen, another question from LinkedIn coming from Sumit Black Rishan. So he's saying, while we talk digital, the key infrastructure required to facilitate it is still lacking, such as cheaper payment options across all domains and industries, and common platforms across all the industry. So what do you think about it? Are we really lacking such payment options?
You mean payment options? The consumer is getting, products and services are cheaper now. Is that what you mean, or you mean?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's in a nutshell. He's saying the infrastructure required to facilitate the payment options and to make it even cheaper for the consumers.
Yeah, look, infrastructure is becoming more and more commodity, I think. You just have to look at the uptick in cloud, how things are moving from infrastructure as service to platforms as a service, software as a service. Everything is moving towards more of a service, consumer pays kind of model. So I think that increasingly a lot of these basic services, when it comes to engaging with customers, will become more and more readily accessible. But then it puts the onus back on us to think, I think, about how do we engineer the right kind of experience with our customer in the first place, because we have to be knowledgeable about how does our consumer really want to operate and to work with us. They can shop any way they like. We now need to work with them, I think, to figure out what is it that they like and how do we serve that.
Great. Thanks for addressing that. So a question, and last question from my end before we move to the next speaker, Owen. So how do you see the evolution of e-commerce, and is it the new normal here to stay for a long time?
Yeah, I think it is. You talk to retailers, and you had some statistics earlier in your introduction, how I talk to retailers, and if you look in the grocery space alone, they're realizing levels of online engagement which they were only expecting to achieve several years from now. And in the space of several months, they have now found themselves hitting and exceeding those online targets. So I think that the bar has been set very much, quite high now. And I don't think it's necessarily going to go back, because I think that what's also happened is that we have proven a lot of the underlying infrastructure issues like logistics, and we've proven that they can work because it's become something that we just have to do to get the job done. So I think that we've broken the back of a lot of the, I suppose, barriers that existed, or at least perceived barriers that existed to e-commerce. Now I think we're right in the thick of it. I think that the trick now is, what's the balance? How do we balance what's going on in store with what's happening online? And how do we look at blending the two things together and not look at them as separate offerings, but more as one face of a complete offering? I think that's the trick now.
So thank you, Owen, for taking out the time to share valuable information with us. Now we'll move to our next speaker, Mr. Ravi Nib, who heads the SMB marketing at Etisalat, to share some insight on the evolution of e-commerce and retail ecosystem.
Thanks, Hassan.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Hassan and Owen, for the amazing presentation. I'm going to today, talk about the evolution of e-commerce and retail ecosystem and how it's impacting us in the presentation. And towards the end, I'm also going to talk about what Etisalat is doing in this particular space to empower our customers and provide differentiation, so that the customers can go ahead and build e-commerce for themselves. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's go to the next slide, please. Yep. If you look at the technology, there have been massive advancements in technology over the last couple of years, especially in the last few months during the difficult COVID time. There are a lot of different kind of technology options available. From e-commerce to cashless to AR, VR. Technology is ever changing. Now, this technology is not only impacting businesses, but more than businesses, it's impacting our customers. Our customers are becoming more and more connected. Whether they go into a retail store, and you would see this yourself, and we see this, when we go to a retail store, we go online and check the prices. What is the price? We see the rating. We actually check, where to buy from. So customers are always connected, and that is, making sure the customers' expectations are increasing day by day. So now what is happening is customers expect a similar experience which they would get in an online store, in a retail store, or in a physical retail store from online channels as well. Our customers are expecting an omni-channel experience today. They expect if I order online, I should get immediate delivery, like they would get in a retail store. They expect that they can order online and pick up from store, or be able to return the items whenever they want it. So that both the worlds are actually merging with each other, and it's becoming more and more important for physical retailers to actually move into the e-commerce space. And we see the trend actually reversing in certain cases as well, like Amazon is now looking at opening brick and mortar store to actually bring the two worlds together. And these two worlds are not different anymore. They're actually the same, and customers expect both. If you go to the next slide, please. E-commerce has today become a global phenomenon, right? It's growing at an exponential rate. We've spoken about it. Everybody knows about it. It's actually getting fueled by the pandemic and what is happening during these difficult times. And new business models are emerging. And Owen here was talking about the online grocery business model. We are all familiar with Amazon, Noon, Dubizzle. But if you see the new kind of business models that are emerging are services, different kind of services which are getting provided to the customers, online tutoring, telemedicine. There are different kind of business models which are coming. So e-commerce is not only restricted to one set. I have a physical retail store, I sell goods, and I need to take them online. That's not what e-commerce is. E-commerce is the new way of doing business, whether the services are getting delivered online or offline, or sometimes just booking an appointment, right? What was happening was, these large players have been dominating the space for a very, very long time, like Amazon. But what is happening now, and what we see as a trend, is a lot of the individual brands also want to connect with their customers directly. And that is why, if you see, a lot of these small brands or mid-tier brands are opening up their own branded online retail stores and putting up their own e-commerce stores, because they want to connect with their customers directly. They want to be able to provide services to the customers directly. It's not about just having your products on the aggregators, but also having a connection with your customers directly. Let's go ahead, please. Next slide. It's important for every retailer to understand the significance of e-commerce, but and that is something which we've been highlighting on. But it's very, very important to understand how it's going to help its own business. Every retailer is different, right? Some retailers might just prefer to have the product listed on Amazon. Some retailers might prefer something else. We, as businesses and, even to our customers, when we talk to them, we need to make sure that what we do, what is right for us. There are various ways of doing e-commerce. E-commerce is, can be done on Facebook. You can have a shop on Facebook. E-commerce can be done through your own store or through, various other channels. But, businesses today need to figure out what is right for them, what model works better for them, what is their unique selling point. And it's very, very important. And we spoke about personalization from a consumer side, but it is very important for businesses to realize, why would the customers buy from them and not from anybody else? And it may not always be the price, because sometimes, customers look at faster service. Sometimes customers look at a better experience. So customers are expecting different things, and there are different tiers of customers which are there. For example, Owen gave an example of American Eagle, where they're focused on students. So they have a different kind of problem versus, people who are of an older age group. So we need to look at who's our target audience and what is our unique selling proposition, and build our e-commerce around that. Next slide, please. So if you look at very high level, there are a few things our customers look at today. Ease and convenience is very, very important. What we build should be very simple and convenient. Customers look at a wide range of products and services, complete product information, obviously affordability. It may not be, the cheapest product in the market, but it should be affordable. A very important element which our customers, we've seen customers looking at is, what others are saying. What are the ratings? What are the reviews? How can I easily compare one product to another? Faster delivery, availability throughout the clock, and overall a great experience. So the expectations of customers are increasing day by day, and there are various things customers look at. Having said that, it is not necessary for, a retailer to do all of them. And it's very important to realize what category you want to focus on. Just to give you an example, there are tons of travel companies which offer, very, very cheap tickets, but they charge for services. There are a lot of businesses which actually provide you premium services and sell products at a higher price. It is still okay. You need to be able to provide the unique selling proposition to the customers and convey that to the customers, so that customers can make the right decision. And that's, what an overall experience from e-commerce or a physical store is all about. Let's go to the next slide. Another very interesting thing which has happened with e-commerce is that, customers can now, retailers and, businesses can now connect with the customers. They can not only be limited to the region they were in, they can actually go beyond through digital channels. So if you're only operating in a particular area in Dubai, you can actually go and go to a different area, or maybe go to a different emirate. When the customers come online, we can capture a lot of data about the customers and offer cross-sell, upsell options. So increasing what we are able to sell to them, and e-commerce is the only, I would say, store which actually works when, there's nobody in the store. So it's always available, 24/7. The customers can go and buy from your online store whenever, your physical store is also closed. So it's a very interesting model for the customers. And customers today, want to buy at their own convenience. So if I come back from office, late in the night, I want to browse something and buy something, that is what I would prefer. So the timing is changing. People want their own convenience. Another very interesting thing is, you can learn about your customers' habits, what they buy, do targeted marketing, and increase the overall lifetime opportunity which you have, with the customers. Even from a business perspective, e-commerce is much more efficient. So no, rent cost, no electricity cost, and we've seen that happening. You actually, a lot of these businesses actually, work on an aggregation model or work from warehouses. That can be, a big differentiator in offering the right kind of services, but still doing it, in a more cost-effective fashion. Customers can be given multiple options of payments, and overall the retailers can improve their experience. And that's very, very important from an overall perspective, which we see in the e-commerce domain. Let's go ahead, please. So let me quickly spend a couple of minutes talking about what Etisalat is doing for its businesses and how we are helping our customers. Let's go to the next slide. So how we look at our customers is, there are various type of customers who we have. We have customers who are very, very small, customers who have a very small shop. In fact, we did a study. Even 45% of our customers don't even have a website today. So what we have done is, very recently we have introduced our e-store proposition, which is the customers who are very small customers, don't have a website, don't have an e-commerce shopping store. They can just sign up with Etisalat and create from hundreds or thousands of templates over 80 business verticals. They can come, create their website, create their e-store. It comes by default with integrated payment gateway and just get started. And this is a very, very simple and powerful tool which we've launched for our customers. And this is absolutely free, no commitments, no strings attached for all Etisalat customers. So that's the first step which we have taken. But once you have your website, once you have your e-store, what do you need to do? And let's move to the next slide. What we've been doing this, and this service has been live for a couple of years, and we have hundreds of customers actually actively using the service. Today we provide our customers with demand generation service. So we act like a digital agency for them. So for simple packages, they can help us. We can actually generate traffic to their website. This traffic would come from Google, Facebook, and other places. We also maintain their online presence and do lead generation for them. So first you have created your web store, e-commerce, and then we are helping the customers drive traffic to their stores and to their website. Next, please. What we've also done is in the last few months, we've launched a very, very smart messaging platform. It's a fully integrated messaging platform which actually helps you engage with your customer. This can be done through the platform interface or using the APIs. So what you can do is you can actually communicate with your customers through SMS, email, through different kind of social media channels in a very cost-effective fashion. And it's very important to keep your customers engaged. So what you can do is you can actually schedule emails, messages, personalization. If you want to wish somebody on birthday, a system automatically does that. So that platform actually helps you engage with the customers. And again, this can be integrated with your existing systems or can be used standalone as is. Next slide, please. And lastly, and it's a very important point, what we are doing is we are coming up with a very, very interesting proposition which will help our small and medium businesses and even larger customers change the way they've been doing business. So this proposition is still a couple of months away, but we're looking at moving the entire ECR to the cloud, and the proposition will include a full electronic cash register management system, employee management, inventory management, which will be integrated with the state-of-the-art hardware or can be run on tablets or any Android phone, integrated with our payment gateways. I don't know, many of you are aware that Etisalat has its own payment gateway, which is one of the largest payment gateways in UAE. And we will have a full end-to-end solution available for our customers offered through the cloud. And through this platform, you'll be able to manage multiple stores and have an e-commerce presence at the same time through one single platform, including loyalty management. What we want to do is, people who are participating here are on this webinar, we'll offer them a chance to get the solution for first year for free of cost for up to 50 customers. You can actually reach out to us, later on after the event, and then we can tell you how to enroll for this particular program. Next slide, please. Finally, I think I'd like to summarize the key things which I've said in this presentation. The first very important thing is choose the e-commerce model which is right for your business. Right, e-commerce is very, very broad. Right, there were questions about hyper localization. There are questions, there are many questions which are coming in. But start small, and then go into detail in one particular area. So if you're talking about affordability, if you're talking about experience, please get into the details of that and finish that. Keep your customers engaged, keep talking to them. Customers, very often we open our e-commerce and we forget about it, and customers are buying, we're not keeping them engaged. So we need to keep them engaged and always focus on your unique selling proposition. What is that which is my unique selling proposition in store? Is we need to replicate that online and on e-commerce as well. Let's not try and become a marketplace when we operate a single product store. So keep that in mind. And that's it from my side. Hassan, we can open up for any questions if there are.
Thank you, Ravi, for sharing with us great insights and valuable information. I totally agree with you. Customers have a high expectation when it comes to buying online, especially the convenience. I mean, think about it, customer can shop anytime, anywhere without, any physical presence of the retail store. So, I mean, this is the way forward, I think. And you've shared with us that 45% of the SMB, they don't even have a website, let alone being, online. That is actually something that is, an eye opener for all of us. Maybe it is the right time to actually think about moving your business to an online or a digital platform. So a question from my end, Ravi. So as an SMB, so let's assume that I have a small and medium business. What is my first step towards digitalizing my business?
I think to every SMB, what I would recommend is roadmap. Have a roadmap. First, identify what you're selling online. What is the unique selling proposition? Get a website. Get a small e-store. Do not try and do a lot of things at single point of time. And then start promoting that and optimizing that particular experience. E-commerce is a journey. Unless you want to do a big bang launch with, where you're a big retailer, you invest millions in actually doing an e-commerce launch, you should focus on, starting small and optimizing and going through that journey along with your customers. Keep taking feedback and move on with your customers. So that's what my recommendation would be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, starting small is actually an important key aspect, when thinking to take the first step towards the digitalization. So I have another question from LinkedIn. Himanshu is asking, during the pandemic, a lot of global brands have downsized and moved away from the physical presence. So do you think this is going to be the way forward, especially with the adaptation of e-commerce?
I think there has to be a right balance, right? So especially, and it also depends on which, and if you talk about UAE, we all love to go out. We all love to go out shopping, right? So, maybe, some of the, countries like US have seen that. The trend is coming to UAE as well, but it will balance itself. Will completely physical retail go away? No, it will not happen. There will be things which we will continue to order online, like Owen was saying. For example, there are few things which we will continue to order online, and there are a lot of things we would want to go back to, retail too. So, but what the customer expectation would be, they would expect, online retailers to be available offline, maybe, but more importantly, all the physical retailers to be available online. So it will be a market which will work in both ways.
So like a hybrid kind of situation where you supplement your online presence with your physical presence.
That is correct.
Agreed. So another question, Ravi, from Tahira from LinkedIn. It says that that's great initial. However, explain if its Salat concept is the same as Amazon, or can I create my own website?
Okay, so I'm assuming this question is about the free website offering. If you're an Etisalat customer, you can create your own website, your own e-commerce store, your own domain. It is not the same concept as Amazon. It is a starter pack, so you will see a lot of interesting things there. Please go ahead and try it. I think, if you're a small business, definitely it'll help you. We've launched this service, I think about 10 days back, and we already have close to about 400 customers who have already signed up and are using the service. So that's something I would encourage everyone to actually go ahead and try.
So Tawseef is also asking from LinkedIn, what will be the approximate costing and the time to go live?
I think it depends on what you're trying to do. So like I said, if you're trying to do something very small, try something which is free from us, grow with it, stabilize a bit, give that to your customers and start investing. You don't have to do a lot of investment in e-commerce nowadays. You can start very, very small, and then as your business grows, invest in e-commerce. That is what my recommendation would be.
Great. I mean, let's wrap up and close the session. Thank you, Ravi, for your great time and and the great insight that you shared with us. Just to wrap up quickly, the pandemic actually has created many challenges that we have to deal with, and in the same time, it has created many opportunities that we actually can all capitalize and leverage upon. The saying that it says go live or perish has become actually more relevant than any other time before during this pandemic. It's actually worth maybe thinking about it in a serious note to take your business online and think about how to optimize and maybe find the right balance between the physical stores and the online stores. So once again, thanks to our speakers, Ravi and Owen, and thank you all for tuning in. And until the new webinar, thank you all for joining us and have a great day.